This protest will focus on what exactly?
Okay,
Pastor
sorry.
Jones, what this protest will...
Yeah, no, I don't really have time for that. Now we're actually going to talk about a number of issues. Of course, Sharia, jihad, what happened last week.
Chaotic scene at Metro Airport today as Pastor Terry Jones returned to town this afternoon. Jones says his protest is still on for tomorrow at 5 outside Dearborn City Hall on Michigan Avenue. Last week, the pastor was briefly jailed before his planned protest of radical Islam outside the Islamic Center of America. He's filed an appeal in that case, and his attorney says a federal lawsuit claiming violation of his constitutional rights. That will come later. Pastor Jones is talking tonight ahead of his planned protest. He spoke with Action News reporter Glenda Lewis. She's live in our newsroom with what the pastor is saying tonight. Glenda?
Well, he was just checking into his Detroit area hotel room and even needed a minute to get comfortable before our 15-minute conversation by phone. And in addition to talking about what he has planned for tomorrow, the first thing we wanted to clear up is why he canceled a scheduled interview at 5:30 here in our studio.
There's definitely a time factor, as you know right now, whenever it's 4:30 and we just now got into the hotel and I think we were supposed to be there at 5. And I think the other factor is with the mayor coming, we already have a discussion with the mayor that's already set for tonight at 10:30. So we actually didn't really see any reason to go through that again. We came here with the purpose of having the protest tomorrow there in front of City Hall. Of course, that protest now has, what would you call it? I guess it has grown to a certain extent concerning the subject matter. We will definitely still be addressing the problems that we see, especially with radical Islam, concerning jihad, Sharia. Actually, we are going to ask for a ban of Sharia in America.
And a new element onto his demonstration. The pastor says he plans on speaking out against President Obama during his demonstration. He says the president is, quote, not doing a good job, end quote. And Jones doesn't believe the president's birth certificate and doesn't agree with all the government spending. So he'll have a lot to talk about tomorrow from the steps of City Hall. Live in the newsroom, I'm Glenda Lewis, Channel 7 Action News.
I listened in on that conversation. You certainly did have a lot to say tonight, Glenda. Thank you very much. And right now, Dearborn Mayor Jack O'Reilly and Professor Michael McDaniel from Cooley Law School are both joining us tonight to continue this conversation. Thank you very much, gentlemen, to both of you for being here. Mayor, I want to start with you. It's been mentioned that there may be a federal lawsuit coming. They're appealing the ruling from last Friday, Pastor Jones and his attorney. A federal lawsuit could be coming that if it names Dearborn, and they're saying a potential big violation of the First Amendment rights. In Dearborn's perspective, everything that happened here, was Pastor Jones' First Amendment rights violated?
Absolutely. No, violated? No, not at all. We've been challenged in court in recent times twice. In 2005, the ADC filed a challenge against our 30-day requirement to get a permit. It meant that you had to have 30 days notice. And so we went through federal court and we ended up in the Sixth Circuit. And the Sixth Circuit said that they did not find that we had violated his constitutional rights, but they said we needed to reconcile practice with the law because, in fact, while we had a 30-day notice, the council, which I was on, kept waiving it. So we'd say, oh, that's okay, you can have it tomorrow, even though it's a 30-day notice. So they said you really have to be consistent. If you're going to have 30-day notice, enforce it or get rid of it. Well, we did. And they had made other recommendations. So they didn't say we were unconstitutional, but they gave us recommendations, and we implemented them all.
Let me interrupt for 1 second. This idea of these permit-free zones. People who aren't aware of the law and what's going on, you hear that and you think, permit-free zone, I need a permit to hold a rally or something someplace. You're saying that that's not all that uncommon in cities, and that has been upheld.
You're right. It's in every city. Now, we came back, and in 2009, we were challenged again on our violation of First Amendment rights in another case in federal court, and we prevailed on that when they said our rules were totally the right balance with regard to the Constitution. And that's the thing that people are talking about this, and it's like it doesn't happen anywhere else. It happens everywhere. So I went and researched. In D.C., if 50 or more people are going to gather, no matter where, you have to go and get a permit in advance. You have to pay a fee, all that. And then I wanted to look at Gainesville, Florida, because that's where Pastor Jones is from. That's more restrictive than that. It says if any more than 30 people, or if you're going to block a sidewalk or a street in any way, you have to get a permit, you have to pay a fee of $30, and then there can be other conditions put on and so on. And then Ann Arbor, where Mr. Thompson's from,
Right.
I don't, Ann Arbor, that's the most restrictive of any of the ones I've reviewed so far. I mean, they require $34 fee. They require it for almost any activity, and the city manager can charge up to $500 bond, and they can require insurance and indemnification. That's Ann Arbor.
So Dearborn's not the only one here. I want to bring in...
We're way less than that. Our standard is much more generous toward free speech than those cities I just mentioned.
All right, Michael McDaniel from Cooley Law School, you specialize in constitutional rights. Where do you stand on all this?
Well, I'm a Homeland Security expert as well, Joanne, so I'm pretty conservative on this point. So let's start off with the point that no speech is there is no right to any speech whatsoever. There are limitations on speech. The Supreme Court said in Brandenburg versus Ohio that speech which would lead to imminent lawless action can be prohibited. That's the current standard. And in this case, we know that Pastor Jones's activity, his actions, which are his speech, will lead to imminent lawless action because they did. When he did it last time, what happened? 20 individuals were killed.
He burned the Quran, and he said that he was not going to do that in Dearborn. Is that different?
Absolutely not. But your question was his rights violated last time? And I'm saying they were not, because absolutely they could have prohibited the speech. And what the city of Dearborn did was less than that. They looked at the time, place, and manner restrictions, which the Supreme Court has said you absolutely can do. That only gets an intermediate scrutiny. They looked at, when they look at those restrictions, what the city can do, they look at the content. In this case, the content was absolutely neutral. They looked at whether or not there's a significant governmental interest. Absolutely. Public safety on Good Friday was the governmental interest involved. Was the restriction narrowly tailored? Certainly it was. And finally, did they give him other alternate channels? And certainly they did. They said he could use the courthouse. They said he could use the city hall, the permit-free zones.
And that's where he'll be tomorrow. Not to interrupt you, but he'll be there tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And I know that's where you wish he would have come at the beginning, and all this would have been prevented.
And what he's doing apparently is he is protesting the governmental action this time, which is absolutely protected speech under the First Amendment. And we say, you know, go forward. God bless him. He's protesting that and a whole lot more, as he said earlier. But both of you, thank you very much. Dearborn Mayor Jack O'Reilly and Professor Michael McDaniel. Just great to get your perspectives this evening. Thanks for being with us. Thank you.
Back to you in the studio.